60 Minutes Overtime.
I think I do normal things. I like to cook. I really don't want to talk about what I do.
Fine.
I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? Because I just feel like,
Yes,
I go
okay.
like, I like to cook, and I like to go see movies with my girlfriend, and I just go.
This week we did a story on Joaquin Phoenix, the actor. We weren't really sure if he would even agree to this interview. He's turned down 60 Minutes interviews in the past. We just weren't sure what to expect. I'd read a lot of interviews he's given. There was one interview he'd walked out of because of the question, and as we say in the story, he's very sort of wry and shy, could not be any friendlier. He just doesn't really like talking about himself, which is sort of what an interview is.
My job is to provide a service in a way. And yeah, whatever the who cares, man?
Back when I was growing up, back in the 1980s, 1990s, River Phoenix was the person who was a household name. And River Phoenix was really the first member of the family to jump into show business successfully. He got cast in a movie called Stand By Me. You know, he jumped out of the screen, I think, for a lot of people. One of the things I learned in doing this is just how big an influence River Phoenix was on Joaquin. River Phoenix comes back after shooting some film and sits him down and is like, you're going to be a more successful actor than I am. You're going to be better known than I am. And River Phoenix started showing Joaquin movies. He showed him Raging Bull.
He came home and very excitedly was like, you've got to see this movie. And through my brother and his understanding and appreciation of that kind of acting, I think it just awakened something in me, and I suddenly could see it through his eyes, and I was just deeply affected by De Niro in particular. And there's a part in Raging Bull where De Niro meets a girl in between the chain link fence, and he shakes her pinky.
Nice to meet you.
And it's like this just beautiful little detail. It's this wonderful moment, and I think that in some ways is what I'm always looking for. What are the possibilities? What more can we say about our experience, a human experience, in this moment?
1993, really at the height of his fame. River was out one night with Joaquin and with one of their sisters, Rain, at a nightclub called the Viper Room. He had a drug overdose and ended up dying on the street outside the club. And the family doesn't talk about it a lot, and it's rare to have the whole family together. They were very brave and willing to talk about the impact that River had had on their lives, but also that he continues to have on their lives and other people's lives, and also just the grief process.
We were talking before we started, my brother died by suicide when I was 21, and he killed himself in front of my mom, and it was a very public event in New York, obviously not at the same level as River, but the public nature of River's death, was it something that intruded upon you?
During that time in which you're most vulnerable, there are helicopters flying over, there are people that are trying to sneak onto your land. Certainly for me, it felt like it impeded on the mourning process, right? You had said that, for years you found it difficult to say your brother's name or to talk about it, and I really identify. My mom and my sisters were the ones that really kept his memory alive, and kind of the willingness to talk about it. Rain has this beautiful lyric in her song.
In my mind, I still see your light. I keep it alive.
Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Rain Phoenix just released an album called River, and it's inspired by River Phoenix, her brother. Obviously, it's very personal. Many of the songs are inspired by River Phoenix, and a lot of the family's involved with the River Phoenix Center for Peace Building, which is based on the life that he led and the ideas that today he might still have, and the kind of life he might be leading today.
When River passed, Jeffrey just kind of moved into the family, and we've been together 26 years.
One of the things that you focus on is restorative justice. What is restorative justice?
Restorative justice is really a practice of addressing harm and having an opportunity for people who are impacted by violence or crime or disruptions to have a stake in the healing and the reconciliation.
I mean, everybody's yearning for the same thing as a human being, I think. To be safe, to be loved, to be connected, to be heard, to be valued.
Their mom was saying, there is no timeline for grief, that this is something which, there are moments she's driving her car and all of a sudden, she starts crying and memories come back.
The grieving process happens out of nowhere. I'll be driving and all of a sudden I will feel it and I'll just
Even now.
welcome it. Oh yeah.
And yet they're also able to smile and talk about him, and it gives them pleasure to talk about him.
There's always been a presence in all of our work and the paths that we took individually and collectively.
You still feel that you feel his presence in what you do?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in virtually every movie that I made, there was a connection to River in some way. I think that we've all felt his presence and guidance in our lives in numerous ways.